I guess let me start really honestly by just saying congrats on the new record and this very impressive set of shows that you're doing that are largely house concerts. And it's a huge undertaking. And just congratulations for putting all this together.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, I've had help, which is nice. It's not totally DIY. I mean, the record myself, the album's called The Resurrection Game, and it comes out on September 12th. And that I am doing myself in that I run my own record label, so I put it out and I share it and do all of that. And as for the house concert shows, I work with a fabulous group called Undertow, and a woman there, Jane, is putting together that tour, and it's quite epic.
It
It's
really is. Like I was looking at your dates this morning and I was like, my Lord, this goes like the only idiot that I know who's done this like this is me.
right. It's 29 shows across
Wow.
8 states.
That's amazing. And you're gone for a little bit more than a month, it looks like.
I leave on July. Yeah, it's over 2 months, more or less.
Okay. That's
And
amazing. Have you done anything of this scale in the States before?
I've toured a lot with my partner, Robin Hitchcock, is as his harmony singer and
Yeah.
merch wrangler. So I've played quite a lot of shows with him. But as far as my own shows go, this is the biggest run I've ever done in the
Okay.
States, which is really exciting.
It's
You know,
really exciting. And
yeah. I mean,
and do you have will Robin be going out with you to like for
no,
moral support? Okay. So are you
no.
going to do all of this on your own or do you have like a confidant who's going to help with driving and merch or how does that work?
I have a guitar player, a wonderful guitar player called Rick Lolla, and he is going to do the driving and the guitar playing. And
Oh,
I
wow.
will be doing the singing and the merch wrangling.
That is
So,
amazing. Yeah, the
yeah,
ever important merch wrangling of the independent artist.
that's
Yeah,
it.
there's yeah, you make all your money at the table in the 20 minutes after the show.
It's the portable record store.
It's amazing. How long have you been did you like I'm trying to remember, did you self-release Blonde on the Tracks as well? Was that on
I
Tiny
did.
Ghost?
I
Okay.
did. So yeah, Blonde on the Tracks is a record of Bob Dylan songs that I put out in 2020. And what was fantastic about that album was that because I couldn't go anywhere, I was really able to just focus on releasing the album itself and making cute little animated videos and sending out vinyl. What was unfortunate about that record is that it did super well and people responded in a really lovely, kind way to that album,
Yeah.
but I couldn't really tour it. I had two attempts at touring my home country of Australia that both got cancelled due to COVID restrictions. And then by the time I came around to playing it in the States, I did do a really small run of house concerts for that. But it was still back in those, those couple of 2020, 2021, 2022 were pretty stressful times to tour.
Yeah.
And especially at my end of the business, I can't really afford to like put on shows and then cancel them due
Yeah.
to illness. So after the second tour of Australia got cancelled, I took a little break.
I,
And,
I can completely understand. Okay, let's use that failed tour of Australia to kind of jump back to the beginning to where you come from. Let's
uh,
dive into the origin story a little bit if we can. Um,
yeah, of course.
so where in Australia did you grow up and what was that experience like?
I grew up in a medium-sized country town called Wagga Wagga
Oh,
in the
fun.
state of New South Wales, and yeah, that's where I spent my teen years. Anyway, I grew up in the country,
Okay.
but then and it was the 90s. It was quiet. It was things were slow. I got into music by taping songs off the radio.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
What kind of
and
stuff really did you gravitate to first?
when I was younger,
Yeah, like
my
when you were
first
first taping songs off the radio, like what was the stuff you were getting super jazzed about?
Well, because I'm Australian, like the first stuff that I super got into when I was 5 was Kylie Minogue, of course, because she had her first album out. And then when I started to develop my own kind of more indie rock tastes, I really got into the B-52s.
Oh,
So I
wow.
remember Cosmic Thing coming out in 1989 and being
Okay.
very into that. And then the Cranberries and the Sundays and sort
Mm.
of emotional female indie
Yeah.
rock.
That I was
Um,
just having, I have daughters that are 24 and 26. And like the, here's where the story ends was in an episode of the TV show The Bear. And
yeah.
my daughter kind of perked up and I went, "But do you know this song?" And she was like, "Of course I know this song." And I was like,
Mm,
"Okay, I guess of course you do because it's great, but like it came out 35 years ago. Like, why do
yeah.
you, other than the fact that it's great, why do you know it?" You know, and it turns out it's being used a lot on TikTok. And so
Oh,
that's how she
okay.
became familiar with the Sundays. And I'm like, hey, if that's the device that makes you fall in love with that record, wonderful. Because that's just that record still is just gorgeous to me, front to back.
Oh, absolutely. To me too. And I think that Harriet Wheeler's voice is just so beautiful.
Yes.
Really. I mean, the 90s were a really good time. I was a teenager in the 90s, and that was a nice time to be into sort of sensitive female rock.
Yeah, I
Like,
hadn't really. It sounds like you and my sister was born in 1980. It sounds like you guys share a little bit of sort of
yeah.
generational equanimity. And I know that a lot of that stuff, like, and then later on, like Tori Amos was a really big figure for her. And it is kind of interesting. I'd never really thought about how, like, if that's what you gravitated to, that was a perfect time to grow up. And it's a little bit
Yeah.
chicken and the egg, right? Like how much of that informed why I love that, and how much of it is that was there, and because I loved it, like I feel so lucky.
That's totally true. Like Mazzy Star and Sinead O'Connor, and like I could just keep going on and on
Right?
and on about that stuff and how important it is to me. And then when I got older, you know, when I because I didn't, you know, like I was saying, I grew up in the country, but I didn't stay in the country
Okay.
very long because I love live music. So as soon as I turned 18, I moved to Sydney and went to college,
And
and
how far a drive was Sydney from this town where you grew up?
5.5 hours.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a day trip, like you're this is not a thing where like your folks are coming over for dinner.
No,
Right.
no.
It's a much
Um,
bigger separation than that.
it's
Yeah.
it's a hefty drive.
Yeah.
And so, but once I turned 18 and moved into the city, it was more like I started getting into alternative. Well, it was called alternative country then. So bands like Wilco and Gillian Welch, Lucinda Williams, that kind of stuff
Yeah. That
started influencing me. And that's obviously how I came to be living where I live now, which is Nashville, Tennessee.
and really that was the push. It was just you fell in love with alt country and it just became such a pull, such a magnet for you. You were like, well, I got to go where this is from.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Wow.
I also really like classic country too. So Tammy Wynette's one of my favorite singers. And then the descendants of Tammy, like Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris,
Yeah.
are pretty high on my people I admire list.
You
All of that being said, it doesn't suit me to make records that sound like that. I've tried it, but because I'm Australian and because of the timbre of my voice, I guess the template that I use to make this record is more like a Sandy Denny, Nick Drake thing
yeah.
than
So
than, than
you
trying.
sort of transmuted um the things you liked about American roots music and turned them back into sort of English roots music, which was a closer connection for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all very singer-songwriter based. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of other music that I'm super into because I'm just a fan,
And well,
you
and
know,
like, and the
that I
hope is
don't
that that
play.
stuff kind of like, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the hope is that that stuff kind of permeates in ways that like other people see it, but you don't put it there on purpose.
Well, that's right. Like I love LCD Sound System, for example, and I obviously don't make indie dance music, but one of the cool things about LCD Sound System is that James Murphy put it out on his own record label, DFA. And I really admired DFA records. And when I started making Tiny Ghost records, like I look back to other artists who've had their own labels, like Jack White has Third Man, and
Yeah.
Murphy had DFA, and Gillian Welch again has a Coney with her partner Dave Rawlings. Yeah. You get your little backs of influence from.
Yeah, well, and then there's all this stuff that's not musical that permeates what you do in the way that you present yourself and the way that you write songs and what your worldview and perspective are. Like I was thinking the other day, like I spent my whole life kind of growing up loving cinema. I grew up in a household where movies were like a religion. And I know that some of those things, I can see phrases in my songs that I know I plucked out of a noir film from 1951 or whatever, or I got the idea from watching this on a Saturday afternoon when it rained outside. And it's like, yeah. I love that stuff where you don't know it in the moment until you look back on it years later.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I think cinema is really beautiful as an inspiration, because I think sometimes musically I can find myself a little in the middle of a project. I'll just get overwhelmed and go, why am I doing this to myself? It's all too hard. And then if you ever talk to anybody who's tried to make a film, you just realize, well, you know what? Making a record's not that bad.
Emma, you make a brilliant point. I'd never really thought about it. Nobody says, oh man, let me tell you about all the records I never got to make, but people optioned for a year.
Yeah. And interestingly, Jordan Lenning, the producer of The Resurrection Game, he is a total cinemaphile. And I think that like a part of the luscious string arrangements, it comes from that, the cinematic score element. We both really like David Lynch. We both really like Bergman.
Okay.
I'm a big Louis Benuel fan. So the surrealist cinema and the French New Wave is, I could go on for days.
Oh God, me too. It's like, for one thing, it's so lusciously, those films of the like late 50s and early 60s that were made in Europe are so lusciously gorgeous and yet so like clearly ravaged by what happened in World War II. Like just culturally, you can't, like they all feel gritty even when they're not. Even when they're this lush Buñuel set piece in a, country mansion in Spain where all these rich people are and everybody's dressed to the nines, it still in a way feels kind of dirty because it was made in like 62 in, Spain. And what's so amazing about that is that you can it oozes this cultural sense of what that time was like that a record sort of gives you, but gives you a different slice of. And you get a better window into a time period that feels really important, which for me, like that sort of 20-year period after World War II is really fascinating to me. And I'm kind of drawn to it.
So same, absolutely. I mean, even my album cover is like a kind of throwback to like a Francois Hardy type thing. It's trying, like, I love the aesthetics of that era.
Yes.
I think everything is so beautifully and exquisitely done. And it's different now. We live in a more like, because we're constantly feeding the content beast.
Right.
and the idea is that we've got to turn things over as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And regurgitate them as many ways as possible.
Yeah. And how fast can we get this online? Like even so I love seeing those, going back to time and place where it wasn't possible to be that fast.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like cinema, just an example of this is like we forget how easy some things have become. There's an amazing shot, and I may be getting the name of the film wrong, but I think it's from a film called Cuba Libre. And it is this amazing tracking shot. You may have seen it. And it starts in a church tower and it kind of swings down on a rope. And then it's a thing where like there's basically like a white cloud passes by and then a balloon picks it up. And the only edit that happens is when the cloud passes by, and it's this amazing tracking shot of a wedding parade down a street in Havana.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen it.
And it took days and days for them to build the orchestrations and the machines to do all this and to time it out and to rehearse it. And now you could do it all in 2 shots with a drone. Right.
Right.
And like the whole point is like what made that beautiful was the art behind how you did it.
Yeah.
And so like there's something really beautiful about going, okay, here's this really lush, super colorful cover photo of a Francois Hardy record. And if you understand that like this looks a certain way because it's printed in 4-color process and these are the kind of papers they use, like then it starts to really make sense. It's the same way that like, you know, we have a certain idea of what a record sounds like because we think of it as 5 songs at a time on a side. And that's just what we have culturally decided.
And you don't have to. It's funny, you know, because in the 2000s, there started to be the trend of the elongated record finally,
Yes.
because people could have compact discs, but because the first things that I got into were from that vinyl format age, you know, like listening to my parents' records, and I am still, when I go into an album project, I'm like 5 songs aside, 40 minutes. That they're the parameters. And I think that's good because it's nice to have a restriction on a project. You know,
limitations are really good in art.
Limitations are helpful. And I mean, on my Bob Dylan record, there are only 8 songs, but one of them goes for 12 minutes because it's Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. So I needed to make it a little shorter there.
Hey, I forgot to ask, am I correct in remembering that you made that record in part with Pat Sansone?
Well, in whole, actually.
In whole, okay.
He's the producer of that album.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't, thank you for clarifying that. Pat's a supreme talent, and I've had the good fortune of meeting him a couple times, and just a genuinely nice human being, just a really good soul.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy, super talented. Yeah. He's been in Wilco for ages, and I was able to make that record with him sort of between tours because he's a super busy guy.
Yeah, he is.
And he just did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful record, Emma. I think one of the things that I enjoy about it so much is that it's a love letter without being a regurgitation. It's your own voice saying, "This is why I love these songs." And there's something just beautiful and genuine about that I appreciate so much.
Yeah, thank you. And what I was really trying to do is like piece together my own autobiography as much as I could using another person's songs, Bob Dylan songs. So in that way that they're you know, I wasn't going to do one of his storytelling songs. I wasn't going to do Hurricane, or, you know, like it was more about, I was going to do his tender, emotive, romantic ballads and try and wear them like a dress, a Bob Dylan shaped dress. And it was really fun. I love singing other people's songs because you know, when I was a wee lass in Wagga Wagga in Australia, I was listening to you know, Linda Ronstadt records, and she wasn't a songwriter; she was an interpreter.
Right.
And
she was.
You know,
I mean, she is basically a sort of Laurel Canyon / soft country version of any number of female pop icons of that era. The difference between Linda Ronstadt and Olivia Newton-John is probably less so than the difference between Linda Ronstadt and Patsy Cline.
Right.
Right? Because they're basically the same thing. They've just chosen a different wing of music to do this in, but this is what it sounds like now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I guess so. I guess I've never really thought of it.
And I'm sort of talking out my ass all at once, so I could be making stuff up, Emma.
I think that Linda Ronstadt, Olivia Newton-John, obviously I'm Australian, massive fan. I speak fluent Xanadu. But with Ronstadt, I think that she was a really exceptional, and the same goes for Emmylou Harris, curator of and selector of songs to sing. She had a profound understanding of her own interpretive talent, which I think is very, yeah, she really did a great job. And she introduced me to Warren Zevon and Elvis Costello. And so that was, those things were pretty important for me.
Oh,
But then there's other, I
wow.
mean, there's other singers too that also are very important who didn't write, like Dusty Springfield, for example, another
Yeah,
big,
that's a great
big
example.
influence on me.
And I was just having a conversation recently with a woman who writes or has a great podcast and Substack, and she writes about the sort of hidden queer histories of music, and we were talking about what a tragic story Dusty Springfield is, and
Yeah.
like just never, because of who she was and the fact that she wasn't going to pretend to be this sort of like party girl that was like this,
Mm.
prom queen. She wasn't going to do that, and so in a way, it kind of really sabotaged her career until Pet Shop Boys resurrected it in the mid '80s.
Yeah. I mean, just an exceptionally talented singer, just extraordinary.
And to your point, one of those people, a little bit like somebody like maybe Frank Sinatra's the best example of this, who puts sort of her own spin on the song, where
Yes.
she turns it into a story, even if it's not a story, because of the way she phrases things and the way that she emphasizes a certain word. And you're like, oh, damn. Like she
The
went down that
drama.
hallway and I didn't know we could go there, but let's ride.
Yeah. Yeah. The drama in her voice is exquisite.
It's super theatrical and beautiful. One of the things I wanted to ask about, and I want to be careful about how I do this because I want to make sure you only share what you're comfortable sharing. But you mentioned in some of the bio stuff for the new record that was kind of built around a rather momentous breakdown that you had in Australia.
Yeah, I had a tremendously horrible nervous
What
breakdown
happened?
in 2023. And was it 2023 or 20, no, it was 2023. And then I had to spend 2024 recovering from it.
Oh
And
my God.
it was pretty bad, you know. I spent time in a hospital, and
Oh,
we got to the bottom of it at the end. It turned out to be hormonal, and that can happen. And but I spent time in hospital, and I was put on a medication that I had a very adverse reaction to, and I basically became, unfortunately, the poster girl for what a black box warning is. And that can happen. It's just
mm,
so yeah, and it's difficult for me to talk about because um, it was a really harrowing experience, and I don't want to dwell on it too much, but yeah, the part of the process for this record is that I went away to the Isle of Wight and I made this beautiful album, and it was all supposed to be coming out, and then I had a breakdown, and so the whole album just stopped. And then when I got out of hospital, I went back to my producer Jordan Lanning, and I said, I can't put the record out as it stands. I need to go back and revisit some of the material and make sure that we get this right. And I guess one of the I could I could not talk about it. I could not mention it.
right.
But one of the things that I found really helpful when I was very, very unwell was reading about or listening to podcasts or seeing interviews on YouTube or whatever of other people who'd had a severe crisis and come back from it. Because there was a real time when I thought, I don't know if I'm going to come back from this. I don't know if I'm going to be the same person.
Mm.
And I'm really, really happy to report that I am the same person.
Oh, I'm so glad.
If a little, I'm softer now. I was already soft, but I have a tenderness now that I didn't have before, and
I
that's
think that when you are forced, and I don't want to extrapolate, my experience and what I'm hearing from you on other people, but Boy, I don't think it's uncommon for people who go through an experience that's traumatic and difficult and requires a great deal of resilience to overcome. That the natural thought would be that that resilience would force us to callous over. And I think in a lot of us, it actually causes the opposite. It causes us to relook at, like, why am I putting up these barriers that are making things more difficult for myself? Why am I
Right.
separating myself from the things that matter to me? Why am I the biggest obstacle between me and my own happiness?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
so
think
I think,
that.
if we can sort of like dig through and kind of scrape away some of that callous when we have a traumatic experience, I think that maybe is not an uncommon outcome. And maybe I'm looking for something. It's certainly how I've felt having overcome. I had a really significant loss in my life in 2020. I lost my dad right in the middle of the
Mm,
pandemic, not because
sorry.
of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, suffered the loss of my business. And
Oh no.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so like it's been it's a real 1-2 punch. And in many ways, like I know that I haven't completely recovered, but in other ways, I've become a much better, more thoughtful, more patient person because of it.
Yeah. That's great.
You know?
It's and I think that that is, in the wild and deeply challenging world we're all living in right now. May you live in interesting times, but I don't think people really wanted things to be this interesting. Um, but but I think that given everything that is broadly going on, to have soft people who've been through difficult things and have a bit of empathy and kindness and care and compassion, the more people like that in the world, the better. Um, I I don't. You never want people to go through hardship, though, like a breakdown or the loss of a business or the loss of a parent, to
Right.
find that softness. But if that's the silver lining that we can take from those experiences,
Right.
then that's a good thing.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
that's also the human experience, right?
well,
Yeah.
I mean we it's easy to be everybody's friend when everything's working out great.
Yeah.
It's easy to be there for people when they don't really need you.
Oh, and
It's another thing altogether that when the chips are down and somebody goes, "Listen, man, I I need $100, or I need a place to crash, or I need a hot meal, or I need a hug," like show up and shut up, you know?
uh,
And what you realize is that I'm willing to do that for so many people in my life. And usually at our lowest moments, it's that we're forgetting that those people would do the same for us.
yeah, I think that's true. I was treated with extraordinary generosity when I had my breakdown. I was really, really lucky because I did put the call out and say, I can't work, folks. I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm in a room and I'm very depressed and I don't know if I can leave that room. And
oh, wow.
and and people treated me with enormous kindness and generosity, and I'm really lucky. And it also um, having had that time, it really strengthened some of my friendships and makes me feel grateful for that. And I don't recommend, like, yeah, I would never wish a nervous breakdown on a single soul, obviously. Not even my worst enemy. Like,
Right.
not,
No, yeah, absolutely.
I would not wish that experience on anybody. But it really had quite a profound improving aspect on my marriage. I think I was really lucky in that my husband was really there for me when things were grim, and I think now that we're on the other side of that, um, we both just feel so lucky to have a nice life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because when you go through something like that and you see what could look like, you
Yeah,
realize that gratitude shows up quickly.
yeah,
It's a
totally.
little bit like we've all had that friend or that loved one, or maybe we ourselves have gone through it where, people have had a cancer scare that wound up being,
Yeah.
hopefully nothing or not much of anything. And I know lots of people that forced them to rethink their outlook on life.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I need to slow down for a minute. Maybe I really need to listen to the stuff that I say, meaning like it's easy to talk about work-life balance. It's another thing to put it in practice. Those kinds of things.
I mean, I don't know the first thing about work-life balance. I
I do. It's work, 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 sleep, life, work, work, work.
Yeah, I mean, my work. It's, I guess that's my work is my life, and I'm lucky because I love music, and
Right.
so that's how
But
that
it
goes.
can be a little bit of a like, okay, how do I love this so much? I want to do this all the time, but like just for your own boundaries and mental health, like you do have to turn it off, and it's hard.
Yeah, that's true.
It's tough. It's tough. Tell me how you're feeling about this epic tour that you're doing. Tell me how. Like, what do you? I mean, we are having this conversation literally the day before your first show of the tour.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I'm,
what are you feeling right
I'm
now?
driving to Indianapolis tomorrow. I'm excited. I can't wait. It's going to be super fun. I mean, a lot of the places I've been before, and then there are many places too that I've never visited. So
Are there
that's,
any of those that are particularly like enticing to you that you're excited to like see for the first time?
yeah, I'm really excited to go to Omaha. I've never been to Omaha.
It's
And
surprisingly fun.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
I mean, everywhere is
Oh,
fun. Like,
don't you find the most amazing people no matter where you go?
totally. And I mean, every town has a record shop,
Yes.
and and
And a coffee shop and a dive bar and a vintage store and a used bookstore that everybody goes to. And like, it's a shame because like I don't want to sound like an old man. Like we used to live in a world where like we had to have a bunch of those things in every town because that was how you got that stuff. And now there's like a
yeah,
niche thing that does one of those in every town that's, the size of Lansing, which is where I live, which is 125,000 people. So there's
right.
going to be a couple in Omaha and there's going to be
Yeah,
some cool, but the point is there will be this enclave of really awesome people and you will go play to a house full of them. And then you'll
yeah,
drive to another town and do it the next night in a completely different place. And again, it will be places where people will go, you're excited about going to Omaha?
yeah.
Like,
I,
like
I mean,
seriously,
also because I'm Australian too, like there's something very magical and special and romantic about driving through the United States to me. It's like that, I read Kerouac when I was 15, and that stuff just imprinted itself somewhere on my brain.
yeah.
And that's one of the wonderful things about the touring life is, yeah, you get to go places and see stuff,
Oh,
and also playing shows, and because music to me is best when shared. You know,
100% agreed, Emma.
it's lovely to go and sing for people, and tell the stories of the record, and get it out there. And yeah, it's just something that I feel very privileged and super lucky to be able to do.
Um, and I'm so excited and happy for you. I've not done this at quite the same level that you have. I've done a trio of DIY stints, and the one that I did last fall really embodied a lot of what you were talking about just sort of embracing the spirit of driving across America. And the truth of the matter is, I made a pretty nice little chunk of money last summer on the east end half of the U.S. I made a few $1,000s and I was like, I can do this again. And I had planned to go out west already and I was like doubling down on it. And I had a bunch of shows get canceled and a bunch of shows that paid almost nothing and racked up touring costs and had too many nights off and lost all of that money.
I'm
But
so
then
sorry.
thank you so much, Emma. But you know
So
what? But you know what? I got home and I have some family support to help cover some of these losses and a wife who has a day job. And so we're starving artists, but making it work. But I got to spend 10 weeks last year seeing this country in a way that I never have before, and in a way that
totally,
most people who live here never will.
totally.
And I'm going to tell you right now, there's more than one moment where I'm driving down a highway or driving across the going to the Sun Road at Glacier, and I don't get teared up thinking about the fact that I'm living out some sort of little Kerouac fantasy I had when I too was 15.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know,
and I think there's something so, they say that we're in the middle of this loneliness epidemic, and a great way to kind of put a pinprick in that loneliness is just to go out and see the world,
That's
talk
right.
to people, you know. Um,
Leaving your house is a heck of a way to get started.
yeah, and I think too, like social media is it's great as a marketing tool to get music out there and tell people about what you're doing and to connect with your friends and send memes, but to do stuff that's out in the real world is important as well.
It's as I like to say, every once in a while we need to make something with our hands and our heart.
Yeah.
You know, the I was looking at your Bandcamp today and listening to a couple of the tracks that you shared from the record, which are lovely, and was really kind of admiring and falling in love with the the way you're presenting the physical versions of the record. And it's
Oh, thank
really pretty the way that you've curated it. The artworks. Did you do the artwork, by the way?
No, I work with an exceptionally talented graphic designer who is also a guitarist, because that's Nashville,
Yes,
called
indeed.
Jeremy Fetzer is
It's
his name.
beautiful work. It's really gorgeous. And
Thank you.
obviously we'll include links and everything so people can pre-order where it's easiest for them and do pre-saves and all that stuff. But I I know how difficult and expensive and time consuming it is to put out vinyl. I've done it. So I know what it's like to do this on your own, and you got to wait. You got to plan this so far ahead, right?
Yeah.
Um, and yet, I'm so glad that artists like you are investing back in it and hoping that it will reap some dividends for you, both in terms of the community with your fans and also to make a living.
I think it certainly helps that I love vinyl. I'm not, I always say, I try to make it clear, I'm not a, I'm not a purist. I listen on pretty much all the formats except 8-track. I've got a CD player, a cassette player, vinyl, and I stream. And yeah, but I do love the process of making records because I love listening to records.
Right.
And
And the
I love,
experience of, and that includes that physical experience of like, I got to take it off the shelf. I got to put it on the turntable. I got to move the arm over. Like that whole thing is almost meditative, right?
well, it is meditative, and it's also, it slows me down. And also, from a professional perspective, when I'm looking at vinyl, I can open the sleeve and then be like, who played on this record? Oh, right. It's very, it can be challenging because not all of the streaming services have it so that you can see the album credits. Who produced this? Oh,
And
like
I almost
Brian
wonder if
Eno made
there's,
this
oh, I'm
record, or
sorry.
oh, I was just going to, oh, Brian Eno produced this, or oh, this is a Daniel Lanois thing, like it's, and that stuff is very important because you can, you want to keep that list of names in your head, so you've got those
Yeah.
reference points of, oh, great, I love that producer, I love that guitar player.
Yeah. I mean, like, have you seen the Yacht Rock documentary that was done for HBO?
It's
Yeah.
very good.
It's very good. And that kind of is the basis for that whole YouTube series was it was like, oh my God, all these guys play on these records.
Yeah,
And if you
exactly.
don't have those physical records and you're buying those from dollar bins,
Yeah,
none of that YouTube series and that documentary and sort of the resurgence of this music really happens. It's weird, you know?
yeah.
I wonder, like, I've always wondered since we kind of went to the like iTunes model, like I'm going to pay 99 cents for a song or $10 for a record. And then we went to
Mhm.
the sort of subscription model. I've always wondered, we have this amazing amount of digital space. Isn't there some way that somebody could create a system where you could print out your own, like people could upload high quality 300 DPI artwork for people to download as part of your purchase or part of your streaming subscription, and you could print it out, and then like you would have a little album, like the way
Yeah.
you used to have like the little CD thing, and you
I
could
mean,
just
there
print
must
out little
be,
5x5 things, and then like you could pull it out and go, okay, Oh yeah, who played on this Jerry Rafferty record, right? And then you figure it out from there. Like,
Yeah.
it seems to me like there's some value in that. Like, there would be some interest in that for people like you and I who listen digitally, but would like maybe like a physical artifact. I just wonder. I wonder if anybody's tried to do anything like this. That's all.
There must be someone who's tried to do
I
that
would think,
somewhere.
which means it must have been a
Yeah.
failure because you and I didn't hear about it.
Well, I do. I mean, I feel like I'm constantly at war with my printer.
That's fair. That's a legit. I'm at war with mine currently. It's unplugged and unused, and it says that it needs a new cartridge, and I disagree. Yeah.
I'm actually. I have to print out my tour booklet to go on tour this afternoon, and I'm actually just going to go to the UPS.
Okay. All right.
The
What?
sad little Epson. I just flashing its lights at me.
So what's in your tour booklet? Is this for your own prep so that you know kind of what the game plan is for the whole tour?
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
it's super boring, but
No.
very
But like,
practical.
I'm not. We don't necessarily need to go through the table of contents or anything. I think it's interesting both from my own process because I'm interested in how other artists do this, and I think for fans it's really interesting because again, largely you and I are talking to and spending time with people who are doing this for all intents and purposes on their own. They're their own road manager. They're booking their rooms. They're doing that kind of stuff. They're maybe getting, like you said, you're getting some help from Undertow. But like, again, it's a very kind of like small business mom and pop operation.
Oh,
You're not
totally.
Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran or Drake.
I mean, weirdly, I have very little professionally in common with Taylor Swift, except that we're both the same star sign. We both spend a lot of time in Nashville. For a while, she serially dated British men, and she has two Scottish fold cats. And so I have all of those. I'm just way less successful.
Oh, that's spectacular.
um, but I admire her enormously. I think she's a really savvy, clever
Agreed.
businesswoman.
Agreed. And that's, I think that's where you get to a point where like if you want to be a household name, you kind of have to be a businesswoman. You have to be a businessman. Like
Yeah.
not saying she's not an artist, but she's also very good at this other thing. Like I could say the same,
It,
you say the same thing about Steven Spielberg, right? Like you have to understand the market and understand how the machine works to get to make a bunch of movies that look like that. And then people
yeah.
go, oh, he can do whatever he wants, but you don't start out getting to do whatever you want.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think you still have to, like, even at the tiny end of the business, at my end, at the house concert end, you still have to be reasonably good at running a small business.
Yeah. And
You
it's
know,
hard.
it's 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 not the Starbucks end of it, but it's the mom and pop shop,
Yeah.
and I've loved learning how to do that because I didn't grow up in uh in a house. My parents are both teachers, school teachers.
Okay.
So there was never, there's not much of an entrepreneurial spirit going on in the Swift family lineage in where I'm from. So it's been fun learning how to do this stuff.
Um, did you, it seems like you would have some pretty good mentorship from Robin in that respect.
Um, no,
Oh, Matt's making an assumption he shouldn't have made.
no, but no. I think Robin has been had a profoundly important influence on me, but that's mostly in terms of the creative life and
Okay.
one feeling entitled to have a creative life, carving out the space and time to pursue those things. I mean, the great thing about being married to another musician is that when I turn to him and say, "Oh, I've got the projected costs for this vinyl shipment," he doesn't look at me like I'm insane and we're definitely not doing that. He goes, "Okay, sounds good." I have this. I'm friends with a wonderful national musician called Tristan, and I joke with her that regular people renovate their bathrooms. and do home projects, and musicians just make albums. so like that kind of.
You're blowing my mind because I live with a person like this.
Right.
Right.
So Robin has been very good in that way. And when we first got together, I helped him through a couple of album campaigns that he was putting out through the Yet Rock label, and they were wonderful. And so having a kind of insight into how they went about releasing records, that helped me more. But it was more through his association with labels than Robin himself. He's
sure.
He's he's not he's not he's a sort of relentlessly hardworking touring musician and creative person, but in terms of business savvy, I would say he's about 10% there.
Understood. It sounds
90% creative, and yeah, if that makes sense.
And
I think
you're looking at someone with a pretty similar ratio into makeup, Emma. I would love to go, I got it. Like I'm 70-30. I am not 70-30. I'm like 85-15 on a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of it is like, what do we not know how to do? So we either need to learn to get better at it or we need to get help.
Yeah. And one of the magical things about music is the magical and frustrating things is that the technology shapeshifts so fast that, everything I feel like I learned putting out a record in 2020, that's wonderful. It's excellent that I learned all those things. But come 2025, there's still so much more that I need to learn how to do.
I'm guessing in 2020, there weren't a lot of people telling you just can't release a record without a bunch of TikTok content.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But now, if you went and talked to a lawyer or an agent or a rep or a label, I think that's largely what you would hear would be, well, if we're going to sell your record, we got to get you on the place where there's the most people. And that's where there's the most people.
And TikTok makes me feel positively elderly. I'm not going to lie.
Again, my wife and my 20-something-year-old children are on it all the time, and I have an account and they send me stuff and I don't see it until it shows up in my email. That's how old I am.
Yeah. So basically what I'm doing is I'm still releasing this album for myself because I'm DIY and I have so many aspects of this campaign to manage.
Sure.
I am doing it mostly like it's 2005.
Yeah.
And so I've got an Instagram, I've got Facebook, I've got Threads, I've got Blue Sky, I've got Twitter,
right,
and YouTube, and I'm making kind of old school videos for YouTube. And then once the album itself is out, then I'm going to go to TikTok and start presenting it there, so that if people find me on TikTok, they can then go, oh, and she's got this new record out. But
that's
basically, well, just for me, it was. I wanted to be across it, but I actually can't I can't be everything everywhere all at once.
No.
And I do, I'm a hard worker and I want to do the right thing by the record. So I want to be good at TikTok, damn it. but yeah, I think that September, October will be more the time that I start experimenting with singing into my phone.
I wish you luck. I have seen it work wonders for people, and I applaud them for it. I again, as you say, it just makes me feel old.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me, as we were talking about being cinephiles earlier, part of me is like, just stop showing me vertical video. It looks atrocious. Just quit it. It looks bad. I'm an old man. I want it to be this way.
Yeah.
This was so much fun. I wish you so many successes on the tour and with the record and everything you're doing. I admire and appreciate you. I admire you, and I appreciate you so much for taking some time to talk to me at such a busy time.
Oh, I'm so happy to talk to you. It's so nice, like um, it, I'm just so happy and relieved to have this record come to fruition. Because you make records like when you have something that's been gestating for a while,
Yeah.
like I started to feel like a pregnant elephant. Like how long can I carry this baby? I've got to,
Especially
and
when you had to put it on hold for a while because of your health situation.
yeah, and I think artists today are under a tremendous amount of pressure to release constantly, and I guess I'm here to say that you don't have to do that because at the end of the day, you still want to love the art and love what you do, and if it feels like a grind, then it's not. That to me is not the point. There are if I wanted to have a job where it felt like a grind, I would definitely do something more lucrative than indie folk rock. you know.
Yeah,
Um,
I I echo that 100%. I was just having heartfelt conversation with my wife yesterday because as I said, like it's hard to make a living doing this and like I drive ride share part of the time and um
totally.
yeah. And so, we were having a conversation and I said, as much as these financial worries make me unhappy and they make me feel, kind of down on myself and all this ego stuff that comes with it. And I said, but at the end of the day, I'd rather feel this way because of the work that I'm doing that's really good that I want to do and the life that I'm sort of working toward, as opposed to giving that up and then feeling miserable for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I've done that and I wasn't any happier.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a ride share yesterday and the driver was telling us about his band. He just got back from tour because it's Nashville, everybody.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, we've got 50 million streams now on one of our songs, which is great. But so but we're all,
50 million streams and he's driving rideshare.
yeah.
What was
And
the name of the
and
band? Do you remember?
I wrote it down, but I can't to look up later. But it's not coming to me right now. But that's, but we're all doing in the same way that I tell people like they're like, oh, you're a singer songwriter. You go out on tour. I'm like, yeah, but like the other part of my job is I spend an enormous amount of time putting records into vinyl mailers. Like I could do it. Like I work. And that's fun too in a way, it's like my first jobs were working in retail, and so it's kind of like I'm well suited to that life.
Yeah. And if you were talking about Robin sort of embracing the artist's life and making time for creative space and that kind of thing. And some of it too is that, part of that bargain is that you do some of that kind of nitty gritty work yourself. And so like I can see a stack of records behind you. I know that box.
Yeah. And he's downstairs counting out T-shirts for me for tour. He's
Amazing,
very hopeful.
amazing. And that's another thing. Like, you're going to leave for tour. You're going to be gone for, several weeks and you're going to play these 29 shows, I think it was. And you've got to go, I wonder how many T-shirts I'm going to sell and how many of those are going to be mediums, and like, you got to sit there and think about that and go, you have to ask yourself, how much money do I want to spend on this? And how many T-shirts would I like to bring back to my house?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm always getting it wrong,
Oh, I don't know an artist who gets it right, Emma. I think you just hope you can sell enough that whatever you get wrong, you can eat.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for doing this. This was an amazing chat. I'm so excited to hear the record in full, and I don't want to make any promises, but I think there's a pretty good chance I might see you in a couple weeks in Detroit.
Oh, amazing. I'm
Yeah.
super excited about going to Detroit
So
too.
first of all,
Only Lovers Left Alive. See, I have to go for that.
um, you've been to Detroit, I assume.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've never been.
You've never been. Okay. I don't know how much time you have. Um, there are some sort of amazing things you can do rather quickly. Uh, the Motown tour takes about 2 hours. It
Mm-hmm.
is one of the most remarkable things I've ever done. It's just
Oh, wow.
it's goosebumps. I mean, part of it is I grew up here. I grew up an hour away from the city, and I grew up at a time where you just that music permeated the entire culture, and you went, well, that's ours, and so it was
Yeah.
everywhere, you know.
So
And
special.
so like you stand in those rooms, and there's a reverb chamber that's in the house portion of the building, and your
Uh-huh.
guide will sing a Motown song so you can hear the reverb, and you the hairs just stand up.
Oh, wow.
And
I
then
got to
you
do
go
that.
and then you go down in the garage, and you're in the garage where they recorded all that stuff, and it's literally just a converted garage, and that piano is there where they recorded all of those songs. The little 8-track console is there where Barry would
Mhm.
sit and listen to people play demos. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
That sounds.
oh, I'm so excited you're going to be in Detroit. And the folks who are hosting you are amazing. I've been to a couple shows at their house, and they have this lovely, it's a very small little house, but it's really lovely. And they'll have you set up in front of this great little hearth, and they'll have room for about 40 people. And it'll just be, I really hope I can make it. I have something else I'm
Yeah.
trying to get out of that night. So here's hoping. Thanks so much. And
Thank
best of luck with the
you.
tour. I really, really appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks for having me.